Welcome to Venezuela Insider, the only place in Venezuela for expats, digital nomads, entrepreneurs, investors, travelers, and related internationals. For more information, venezuelainsider.com. A creative destruction is happening in Venezuela right now. I will say, yes, we are on it, and we're gonna see another economic crisis here in Venezuela, but not as draconian as we saw until 2017, 2018. So we're gonna dig deeper on that. Let's start. In case you don't know, the creative destruction is an economic term when basically what you define as creative destruction is that when different entrepreneurs start, of course, entrepreneuring, start setting up some businesses, some business ideas, whatever might be the case. Can be a traditional brick and mortar business, or can be some cutting edge technology applied to the whole economy. And we've seen a lot of success stories. For instance, just on the past 3 or 4 years or so, we are seeing the rise of companies like Yomi, Ridery, and Pedidos Ya. Those companies are serving the purpose that the last 10 years or so are being serving Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, you name it, ride sharing companies and also delivering companies. The business model basically works all over the world, and Venezuela is no different. Those companies took the business model and apply it smoothly, and right now they are juggernauts on their respective industries and are doing pretty well. Also, we are seeing the rising of fintech companies like Sinly. That is a very interesting company. I'm not being sponsored by any of these companies. Hope sometime I get some sponsorship deal for them, or whatever. Well, this company Sinly basically connects the outside international banking operations and banking services, financial services, to the local market, and it has a pretty decent success here on the country. They are not as used as other mechanisms of payment. And also we have, well, it's not a company, but it's a service that we use a lot. It's called Pago Móvil. That is a very easy and quick and expedited mechanism in order to make payments here in Venezuela. And basically, every Venezuelan has access to such platform. So we have a lot of supply lately of these services, this entrepreneurship, and of course we have a bunch as well of agglomeration of the traditional brick and mortar businesses, talking shops, supermarkets, restaurants, hotels, inns, leisure and hospitality activities that have been flourishing the past 5 years or so, and very good. And also considering that on this 5 year span, we had the pandemic. And apparently the economy in Venezuela was poised to be even worse. But actually, just after the pandemic on 2021, the Venezuelan economy has been doing quite good compared well we had last year, so not so crazy. However, what we're seeing right now in 2022, 2023 is just the proliferation of this wacko business model. The most famous or infamous is a restaurant called Altrum that is a big crane in the middle of Caracas. They had this high-end experience. Not only on the price, it was very pricey, but also it was a crane that take a table just to the air, and you had a 5-star experience of dining and watching from the sky the whole city. And it was, distasteful to say the least, but it was fun to watch all the blogs on TikTok. It was viral, the news, and the place just recently closed. And we're seeing these wacko places and mostly high-end restaurants that only are catered for, of course, wealthy Venezuelans. But since if you are a little bit of you are a little bit keen on economics, you know that when you set up a business only for high net worth individuals, your market share is very, very tiny. So you depend only on a handful of customers in order to support the business itself. What happened is on the past, let's say in the last quarter, the first quarter of the year, 2023, the Venezuelan economy is being slowing down, halting a growth from the past 7 or 8 quarters, depending on which data you take. So we had an important economic growth on 2021 and 2022, but 2023 is just being, let's say, I forget the name, forget the Alan Greenspan saying, irrational exuberance that we had on the Venezuelan economy. And well, what we have right now is everything is very expensive and not for the average, only for the average Venezuelan. I'll say for the top 20% of the population still expensive. And we have seen an economic slowdown on the Venezuelan economy and the creative destruction of all of this wacko business, but also some serious business as well. I'm not saying those businesses are not serious. They have still a business model. They create jobs and such. So believe me, I'm always sad when I see a business going out of business, of course. So you have to pay respect for that. But still, what we see right now is a depuration of all of this proliferation of very strange business ideas that mostly I care to the high-end consumer. Now, the silver lining are two. The first one is that there is a saying on economics that the cure for high prices are high prices. In the case of Venezuela, you always see these inflation charts all over the world, and Venezuela is on the highest. We don't have hyperinflation since the past year and a half or so, but the inflation data is meaningless regarding measure on nominal terms because we use the USD. So when you see that number is meaningless, we already covered that on previous videos. Today, I just want to say that the inflation data is meaningless. You have to take into account the prices denominated on USD. Remember, the Venezuelan economy is de facto being dollarized, is what matters because the USD is the standard here for the price. And also has been rising up the past 4 years or so. But what we're seeing right now, unlike the nominal inflation rate that is on Venezuelan bolivars, the inflation that we're seeing denominated on USD has to trend down at some point because the Venezuelan government cannot print USDs. I'm talking the Venezuelan government. I'm not talking Jay Powell. That's one thing. And the other thing is just there is not enough dry powder here on the Venezuelan private sector in order to come up with high amounts of US dollars in order to support those high prices that we're having right now in Venezuela. That's one hand. And the second thing that I have to mention, the second silver lining, is that the Venezuelan economy went through a horrible episode on 2017. It was awful. It was a lot of scarcity of goods and services. The infrastructure is not excellent by any means right now, but at the moment was dreadful on 2017. The country looks totally different compared to 2017. Still a lot of issues. I'm not saying Venezuela fixed itself. However, the situation is quite better, without a question, for the average Venezuelan, at least. Well, I'm not saying that we are going to those days all over again. This is unlike that time that recession, that crisis, it was a supply side crisis because the Venezuelan government applied terrible policies that destroyed a lot of the non-oil economy here in Venezuela. But when they do so, the oil prices were high back then, talking on the early 2010. And the other thing is Venezuela was producing around 3 million barrels per day and was exporting over 2 million barrels of crude oil per day. Right now is around 700,000, so it's way less. And also that's when we saw on those years the debacle of the economy, it was due to a supply side crisis on the private sector. Right now, what we're having is a demand side crisis because the average Venezuelan cannot afford the high prices that we have on USDs. Because Venezuelans right now are earning on USDs still a small amount, small wages that are not able to cover such high prices. We're still on recovery. We're far from, we're still rising from the bottom, but way far from the top. So right now, what we should see is a contraction of the consumption and a correction of the prices. That's what I'm seeing right now. I'm seeing prices denominated on USD dropping down, on real estate, on used cars, on discretionary goods and services, and many other consumer items and services. So what I'm seeing right now is a correction on the prices, so that on the next, let's say, 3 or 6 months, we can see buying opportunities for Venezuelan businesses, also for Venezuelan real estate, and just finding a country and experience a little bit more affordable here in Venezuela. So right now, that's all I have to report. I'm not seeing an Armageddon, an economic Armageddon, but I'm seeing a demand side crisis, a correction, a quote-unquote recession, but not a draconian situation like we had on 2017. Thank you for watching Venezuela Insider. Please like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on social media. If you want to work with us, VenezuelaInsider.com. Thanks again and have a nice day.